Hello everyone. I've decided to make what I guess you could call a devlog in order to explain what I've been doing with my RPG project. I did make a video showing some of it earlier, but I didn't really explain it, and I started out spending a lot of time just opening doors in a castle everyone already seen, so now I'm going to explain what I've actually been doing. The first thing I did was implement movement. That was pretty simple. I basically modified and improved some of the movement code I had made from Caverns of Evil to be more appropriate to an RPG as opposed to a Doom clone, as well as to just improve it in some general ways. So I can walk, I can crouch, I can run, and that takes stamina. Apparently this character has fairly high endurance because I'm not losing a whole lot of stamina, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the thing I started doing next, that I had put a lot of time into, was an inventory system. And I do hope to get rid of that little jump there. As you can see, I have an inventory system here. I can move things around. It will expand as you add more items. I did add a limit of 64 rows, which would give you 512 items, because I didn't really want it to be too easy to break the game by just filling it up with tons and tons of items until the computer can't handle it anymore. And if you need more than 512 inventory slots, you're probably doing something wrong, or you're trying to break things. Now, one thing I did, as you notice, this stayed down. It will expand if I move these things up. Now it'll always try and keep at least one to the bottom, but it'll also keep at least 4 visible, and it will keep enough that if you're scrolled all the way down, it won't jump in a jarring way. But if I move these back to the top, as you can see, the scroll bar changes. You can equip things by dragging them. You can also double click. They do have specific slots. Now these would normally be in the same slot, but I put them in different slots for testing purposes. I hadn't made a shield yet. There are two-handed items, which if you put one of those in, it will kick those both out. If you put one of these back in, it kicks the two-handed item out. You can pick items up. And I do plan on hopefully finding or better yet, making a better set of crosshairs that doesn't look quite so much like a rifle scope, because that just looks a little too modern for what I have in mind. But it is really handy to have those in order to see what you're doing. You can also go into these inventories. You can click things in. You can also store things like so. And they will keep where they are. This one just has a whole bunch of swords. As you can see again, the way the inventory scales itself. I put those swords in mostly to test encumbrance. So that's the inventory system. There's also the ability to click here to drop or to throw an item. How far you can throw an item depends both on your strength score and the weight of the item. You can split them like so you don't have to worry about having, if you have a big stack and you need to, say, put half of it in or some other portion into a container to save for later or something, you can do that. You can drop items like so, you can throw, and that's the inventory system. And I'll get a little more into how it works in just a minute, but the next thing I did was the animations. So you can kind of see with the shadow. See the weapon swing. And if you swing it and then just wait, you get the same swing. But if you click attack again before the swing is up, it'll cycle through this sequence so you can get kind of a combo. And just to show a little bit better, this is not intended for third person, and some things don't really work very well, don't work quite right in third person, but I put in some third person just to view the animations a little better. You can see I'm walking, crouching, running, attacking, take this off and return to normal. Jump off of here. At a certain point, you have your jump animation, but at a certain point you see a fall animation. And when you see that animation, that is the point where you are now moving fast enough to take fall damage. So not everything really works that well in third person because it's not designed for that. You need your crosshairs to target things you want to pick up. The other thing you see in this, you can see these slots. This slot does not go to items, it goes to spells. So you have items and you have your spell book. The items and spells do work differently. The spell does not have a lot of effects that I put in the real game, but for testing purposes, you can see I can cast a spell, fireball, and it uses mana. So, how is all this working? Well, first of all, items are represented by 4 classes. There's an item prototype, which is a scriptable object that tells the core data about what an item is. There's item in world, which is attached to these. It implements an interface called iInteractable and uses it so that when you interact, you pick up the item and it goes into your inventory. And there's item equipped. So this is item equipped, and there are sub-variations. There's weapon. There will be more, but right now there's just item and there's weapon. Weapons do have a hitbox that is used to determine whether or not they hit a target. So this is definitely different from Caverns of Evil, which is more like just a ray cast at short range, and if someone is in front of you, hit them. With this, the actual movement of the weapon works. The iInteractable is also used on doors, so you can open and close the doors by wrapping a door wrapper. The iInteractable is also on these containers and is used to open the container inventory. Then the items, the last class for the items is so we had a scriptable object for the prototype, and then you had 2 mono behaviors for the in-world and equipped. Then you have a pure C# class called item stack, which contains a reference to the item prototype as well as stack size. You can split that and you get your stack size. Oh, and by the way, if you click over items, it will automatically combine the stacks. And a slot number. The reason there's a slot number is that this is backed by a list. Now the equipment slots are backed by an array, but the normal inventory is backed by a list. That's so you can resize it, and so the position they actually show up here is based on the slot in the item stack. And then this is based on an array for each item, and they do take only the item they're supposed to. You can click them in and out. Then you have the eye interactable that lets you pick things up. These are, by the way, largely temporary kind of stand-ins, either borrowed from Caverns of Evil or from asset packs that I've gotten on sale. I do also have stats. Originally I just had them start at 10. Just for testing purposes, I decided to have them be randomly assigned so I would end up testing with different stat combinations. The plan is that in an actual game this would be a point buy, but I might keep the random as an option just for those who want to just, as I guess you might call it, a little bit of a hardcore option, just take what the dice give them, the virtual dice, and adapt to it. And these in turn determine your health, stamina, mana, as well as your speed, your carry weight, how far you can jump. You can get small bonuses to melee and defense. This, it was not ready when I worked on the character sheet, but this, you could fall in now because it's based on, mostly on the weapon, and then also your melee bonus if it's melee. And that's what I have so far. I hope that was interesting, and I hope to have more in the future. Thanks to anyone watching, and have a great day. Bye.